Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, for the first time in probably over a year since making a proper video. Of course, we've done a few hot laps and world record videos uploaded, but not a proper commentary like this. So we're going to be kicking straight back into action with some virtual GP action from the Formula 1 game as we're qualifying the real life drivers, but we'll get into that a bit more in a minute. I want to talk about the channel plan and how the upload schedule will affect what we do. So of course, as many of you might know, I live stream on Twitch over 5 times a week. So part of the plan is I'm going to be uploading my stream highlights to YouTube with a 5 to 7 minute highlight reel to keep it nice, short and intense. Games I'll be playing is like iRacing, Assetto Corsa and the Formula 1 game by Codemasters. Those are the main ones I'll be playing, and if the stream wants me to be playing other games, I'm happy to. Any racing game I love, so I'll be doing loads of those. Again, talking a little bit about the virtual GP. So what the format is I'll be qualifying for After the Clerk this race, and I'll do a 1-lap shootout in qualifying and a 5-lap sprint race. And determined by the grid, or the results from the 5-lap sprint race, will determine where Arthur starts. You can see now getting into qualifying, so 1-lap shootout, so super intense, you can't make a mistake. Coming down to turn 1, braking about the 90 meter board, obviously there isn't a 90 meter board there, so you have to imagine it. Down to turn 1, short shift to 5th on the exit. To be honest, it felt like a pretty good turn, but when I looked at delta time, it was 0.830. It was about a tenth and a half down from what we normally do. So actually I was in P14 right now, so looking to take all this curb on the inside actually, because it helps stabilise the car. Short shift to 3rd if you need to, open up DRS as soon as possible, coming down to turn 3 or turn 4 depending on what you want to call it, using up all the road on the left hand side, braking about the 100 meter board, down to 3rd gear. Get to the white line, but don't touch the inside curb. It'll understeer. You short shift to 4th. It gives you much better traction. Choose the line of least resistance through the steering wheel. Flick it into 6th. Then late down shift to 5th. Short shift to 6th again if you need to. Use up all the track. Now throw it into the second left-hander. Down to 5th to get the car in. Short shift to 6th for more traction. You have all the curb. And again, choose the least path of resistance up to the next corner. Use up all the curb on the left-hand side. Throw it into turn in 7th gear, full commitment, use up all the curb again, down to the last corner, down to 5th, short shift to 6th on the exit, use up all the curb, and that is a lap of Austria. As you can see, this is going to put us 4th on the grid, but considering that I lost a tenth and a half in the first sectors from what we normally do, I'll really take that, because it was only half a tenth off pole for my teammate David Tunitsa, the 2019 F1 Esports World Champion. So it's not a bad result, and it's a good result for our first race in Ferrari, and a good benchmark to start on, because we're right up there. And we're not really in the carbon fibre zone of P7, P8, as you could see in the first turn in a minute. There was incidents here, so we're in a good position to be able to qualify Arthur in a respectable way, and he can take the race on from there. So as you can now see, we are on the grid, and the lights are coming on, going up to 5 lights, and as soon as the lights go out, we'll be ready to race. So looking for about 12,500 RPM, getting a good start, slightly better than Marcel actually, but we decide to back out of it and follow into the first turn because we don't want to go up the inside and make an accident. As you can see, looking behind us now, there's already an accident with about 3 or 4 cars. Rip. And you can hear me saying rip straight away. So now it goes into the phase of the race. It's only a 5-lap race, so it's a sprint race, but with the level that everyone is in this race of all being F1 esports drivers, it's the most intense 5-lap race I think I've ever done in my life. So the general plan here is in laps 1 to 3 you can't really do any overtaking because you don't have the DRS enabled. So my plan was anyway, and I could see there was different strategies by different drivers. So Marcel was going a bit more attacking right now, I could see that. So I decided to hang back and save a bit more of my fuel, a bit more of my ERS, and not get any corner cut warnings. That was critical, because in the first few laps, if you cut turn 1, it's a 2-second penalty straight away, no warnings. So that's super difficult, and a 2-second penalty in this race, that means game over really. So now coming to end the first lap and starting the second lap, see David Tunitsa's the fastest lap of the race, but it's still 88% ERS. So that's pretty good for this point in time. So 4 tenths behind Marcel, taking it pretty easy in turn 1 not to get that corner cut warning like I just mentioned. So later on, Daniel Brendon does actually get a 2-second penalty. I think it's starting the next lap he will pick it up. So it's shown how easy it is. Daniel Brendon is a race-winning driver, you know. And for a race-winning driver to make a corner cut penalty like that just shows how easy it is. So you see, losing a bit of ERS on the exit just to keep the pressure on Marcel. We don't want him to think that we're starting to drop back a little bit, because then it means he can relax. So I want to keep the pressure on him as much as possible while saving my ERS. If I can do that, then he might have to use up more of his ERS. And I can see that on a lot of corner exits where he's actually deploying quite a lot of ERS. And I look back on the broadcast later on into the race, that strategy did work, and he had less ERS than me, and I was able to attack. So we can see later if that attack actually comes to any positions. But you see, coming to the end of lap 2, start of lap 3, DRS will now be active on this lap, and this is really where everything starts to get a bit spicy. So in this sort of a train, no one can really overtake each other except for Danny Moreno in P2, because the P1 guy doesn't have any DRS. So on this track, there's 3 DRS detection zones and activation zones. So it's really easy to follow. As soon as you're in the DRS of a car, you can maybe gain 5-6 tenths a lap easily by doing nothing. You can see all of us are slipstreaming each other right now. Marcel, I think, using a bit more ERS again, trying to attack Danny Moreno. So you can see using a bit of my ERS again on the exit of this corner just to keep the pressure on, like I say, 3 tenths behind Marcel. But the downside of being this close is the fact the engine will start to overheat massively. See Marcel going a bit wide there. I go a bit more tighter into the apex just to fill his mirror a little bit and make him a bit more nervous if I can. So again, going through the middle sector, it's quite difficult now with the dirty air. You can see I'm taking a bit of a tighter line to keep the clean air on my front wing. Although people might call this an arcade game, it still does simulate the dirty air effect quite well. In that way that if you go slightly out of the rear from a different car, you will pick up fresh air and get better grip. So through the final corner now, you can see really close to Marcel and also quite close to Danny Moreno. Even though the dirty air should be holding us back, we're able to stay closer. So I think we do have good pace at the moment. So coming out of this turn, staying really close to Marcel, only 2.5 tenths. You can see deploying all my ERS down the straight because I want to pressure him to use his. If he turned off his ERS, then he would have been at risk from getting overtaken by us. You can see faking a look down the inside of Marcel there just to make him a bit more nervous. You can see on this corner exit, neither of us are using any of our ERS. So it's pretty critical at this moment. But Marcel is picking up a really good slipstream from Danny Moreno ahead. So this is really critical also for David Tanitsa because when we was doing practice, it was always the final lap that you overtook each other, not really anything before then because the ERS and the DRS wasn't really powerful enough to make an overtake before then. So it's going to be really interesting going into this final lap. You see Danny Moreno is quite far back from David Tanitsa and not taking David Tanitsa's slipstream. So it's showing that Danny Moreno doesn't really want to attack and he wants to conserve his P2. So that pretty much makes it a bit harder for me to make a move on Marcel because it means everyone stays in that sort of flow. As you might have seen a minute ago, the engine was on 137 degrees, which is ridiculously hot. So you can see I'm moving the engine mode back down a little bit now just to try and make a bit more leeway on the temperature to bring the temperature down to give more power. But critically, you can see Marcel's battery is starting to flash on the back of his. So I can see that means he has under 10% ERS and that means he's super vulnerable into the straight. So if you go wide, force him defensive, get an amazing exit, tucked up right a tenth and a half behind him so he gets back to his flashing again. I have loads of ERS left going around the outside of his. Going to squeeze him on the entry here to give him a tighter line into braking zone. Down to second gear to get the rotation. He's going to push me a bit wide here, but we keep our foot and we're not going to be pushed wide like Canada again. And we keep the ERS in and we have more ERS than him, so I know the position is done at this moment in time. I have to hook up the apex, park it on the apex beautifully like we did.
Scopels, he tried to push me out. Scopels, he tried to push me out.
As you can hear from my comments live, and I'm going to make a few more comments here, so I'm going to be quiet so you can listen to them live on the video.
For Ferrari, first race.
There we go.
GG Tanitsa deserved it.
As I said, Tanitsa did deserve it, put it on pole and converted that pole to the win as he's celebrating a third place in my first ever race with Ferrari. I'm extremely happy with that. I'm looking to build upon that for Silverstone in a week's time. And that'll be a super fun race, and I think Silverstone has a lot more straights as well. And you can follow each other and overtake each other a bit easier than Austria. So I think it's going to be a super intense race once again. Only a 1-lap qualifying and a 5-lap race, so it's always going to be intense. But thank you so much. I'll link my Twitch down in the description, so be sure to tune in there. Ciao, ciao.